So we're almost done. We have 2 more phases left. Phase 8 is adding effects and refinement. So if we wanted to explore more effects, gradients, 3D, shadows, this is exactly when we add those final polished touches to the logo. This is after we get approval for colors. So we have approval for the concept from the client. We have approval for colors. So now we can really kind of spice this up a little bit, and we need to create an icon that goes along with this because that's part of the logo design package for this client, the little app icon and also the logo itself. So we need to create these in tandem with each other. So we have our colors already picked out for our flat design. I wanted to try out a couple of polished versions of this logo, and let's focus on this app icon. We really want it to pop out because right now it's just flat, and we can add a little bit of style to this. So let's do a version that works really well on white backgrounds. So we can explore gradient options here. For the logo, just kind of a top-down lighting. And let's make this orange. And we have all of our color palettes saved here so we can easily access those. Just creating a slight gradient to give the effect of highlights and shadows. And so one thing I wanted to explore with this, and let me get the gradient at the right angle here. Have it be a little bit more top down. I really want this arrow to pop out quite a bit. And what I thought we would do is have a version that had a 3D element to the arrow because you have this nice carved out space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to use my 3D tools, extrude and bevel. And we're going to go over this. I have an isometric class where I go over isometric designs and we do a ton of 3D work. So we're going to go over that in more detail in that isometric design section. So for right now we're going to do something really simple. Just get out a very slight rotation to this and do a preview. We want to have the extrude depth be a lot smaller. Just like that. I want to kind of have an upward angle so you can kind of see the 3D elements. I'm just moving my cube, getting a custom rotation. I'm going to even reduce the extrude depth just a little bit more. Just want a little pop out of color, and it can change your highlighting as well. Great, so just adding that little 3D element helps. If I ever want to expand this, make it a finalized shape, because right now I can go back to my properties panel and double click on this and I can change it anytime. But let's say I'm ready and I'm finished and I'm ready to put the final touches on it. You can always go up to Object and you can always expand your appearance. That'll kind of outline the 3D bevel effect and kind of lock it in, just like creating outlines. So now it's locked in. And I can even, now that I've expanded the appearance, there's 2 separate shapes now. So it's just like if I were to draw it with the pen tool by hand. So now I can take this, apply our color here that we selected, and take this color and do the same thing. Just adding a little polish and effects. Still have that flat version of the logo, which will be very needed by the client. We can even add a little stroke here. Just adding a little slight purple stroke, making it really thin, maybe just 0.25 points, just to add a little bit of outline. And we can even make that a gradient too if we wanted to, or make it lighter. Just adds a little bit of dimension. We could even do a slight drop shadow. Remember, this is just an extra version that has effects. You still have that nice flat version you can use. And with drop shadows, probably if you've taken my classes before, I love to do very small ones. I don't like these harsh drop shadows. I have a lot of students who do that. They do these big dark shadows, and it does tend to date designs, make them look like they're a little bit older. So notice how we're just using 9%. We're going to have it a tight shadow, tight blurring. Just enough to help it kind of pop. You see everything's starting to kind of be a little more rich, a little bit kind of popping off the page. Do the same thing with video. You can go even crazier and you could do a 3D bevel on this type as well. We can group this together. Go up to 3D, extrude and bevel and do a very small one. But we're going a little bit too crazy here. But just kind of showing you some things that you can do. So let's add, we got this pretty good, down pretty good. So let's take our simple icon here that we created. Let's make it 3D. We want everything to match. Let's also do a drop shadow on this. We already have it on the arrow, but we don't have it here. We can make this one a bit stronger because it's on a colored background. Maybe not quite that strong. So now we can add a border to this to make it more dynamic. So I'm just going to copy this background, make it a stroke, make it a little bit thicker, and bring it on over. And I go over app icon design in more detail in my digital design masterclass, where we develop one from scratch and size it perfectly to a template. We're just getting an idea right here for this one. So that's a gradient. So let's see if we can't shift this around, add the right angle to it. Now what we want to do is we want to have two borders, and we're going to create almost a 3D effect with this by creating another one. So we're going to take this and we're going to do an outline stroke. So we just outlined the border. So we want to have two copies, and we want to make this one a different color. So let's reverse everything here, and this is a lighter shade. We're just going to reduce it just a little bit and just bring it backward into the layering system. And let's do an outline stroke on these two so we can have more control over gradients. Let's go to path, outline or stroke. Now they're just objects. Now I can have a lot more control over gradients. Let's have this be light and go dark on the bottom, and then the one on the inside will have the opposite. So it's going to go from dark to light. So you notice it creates kind of that cool 3D effect. So I've just kind of reversed, just basically two strokes, outline the paths, and just reverse the shadows and highlights to create that cool shadow. Look, almost looks like a shadow cast here, and we could fix this up a little bit later. So you can see how we're adding a little pizzazz, and we could continue to go down the line. We've got a couple other backgrounds we have to work with. So a lot of these we can just copy and paste and then adapt it to the new background. So in this case we want to have white, and we could use our little gradient option that we already kind of developed here. Give it an angle and then switch out these colors. We make that a nice bright orange, or we can keep it purple, whatever we want to do. So you're going to continue that process until you work through all three. And you'll notice a couple of different design elements we have here. And that's something where it starts to get a little bit more into the branding process. So if you're hired to do the branding, then this is a great time to start incorporating other branding assets. So what is a branding asset? A branding asset is anything that exists outside of the main logo to complement the logo or complement the brand. So in this case, this background is a brand asset. And this little triangle thing is a brand asset. So I'm going to teach you real quickly how I kind of came up with the idea of the triangle. The original slanted arrow, it's an aspect of the logo I thought we could expand further and kind of have created this cool background effect. So I took this and I want to make it a stroke and maybe not make it quite as thick. And all I'm going to do is just go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and do a positive. So I'm going to erase the negative and make it a little bit smaller, so maybe 0.05 inches, and even smaller than that. Let's 2.02. And then I took the outside shape and did the same thing. And then you do the same thing. You just keep doing this over and over until you get this really neat echoing effect. You can kind of see it in action here. You can also see how I'm applying it here as a kind of a brand aspect to really spice it up. And this is the point where if you're just doing a logo design, some of these extras are not going to be required. But when you want to create and craft a logo for a portfolio presentation, sometimes these extra brand assets go a long way in helping you present this in a really neat, polished manner. Take, for instance, this marbled background. I created this easily in Adobe Photoshop by creating a purple document, purple color, and then overlaying a couple of lighter purple color rows. Went and used the liquefy tool and did some liquefying experiments and created my own marble texture. This looked really good as opposed to just using plain purple as a way to add motion and almost a sense of animation with the background asset. It just makes the presentation overall more rich.